The following episode of the Delta League podcast is dedicated to Alisander Harrus. I'm Mike A.D. Welcome to the Delta League podcast. Around 7 p.m. Saturday, news broke that Portland assistant captain Alisander Harrus had died in a plane crash. He was just 26 years old. The team is absolutely shell-shocked, and the league has lost another player too soon. Rest in peace. Now, we're going to start the week's action from Monday, where Vancouver was hosting Salt Lake City and Phoenix. And in this one, Phoenix wins it. Phoenix 31, Vancouver 20, Salt Lake City 9. In this one, for Phoenix, Carlo Flamia had 9 goals and Jackson Truman had 13 blocks. For Vancouver, Isaac Parker Johnson had 6 goals, and nobody for Salt Lake City showed up this week. Well, Vancouver's Ana Maria Chavez, arm in a sling and fresh off a torn tricep surgery, didn't hesitate to get involved in this one after Phoenix player Ash Malik took out teammate Isaac Parker Johnson. She made her dissatisfaction with the hit publicly known, so now she's out for an additional week. Now, during this game, there was a score clock malfunction that made everyone believe that there was a Luke Bryan concert. It's unfortunate that this score clock didn't malfunction in a way that would have increased the SLC goal total, because they needed it. Also during this game, random fans assaulted a vendor and stole all of the hot dogs. I understand the housing prices are outrageous out west, but come on, people. And in the end of this one, Phoenix picks up the 4 points, Vancouver gets the 2 points, and Salt Lake City, nada. Now, we're going to move on to Wednesday, where Las Vegas is hosting Portland and Miami, and in this one, Miami picks up the win. Miami 31, Las Vegas 11, Portland 8. For Miami, Joe Kirsch had 7 goals and Noah Hamilton had 5 blocks. And nobody for Vegas or Portland mustered jack shit in this one. Portland players John Holmes Galucho and Bethlehem Cato got yellow carded in this one, along with Vegas players Alan Adam and Dustin Glass for some late stage chicanery that could have been worse. Good to see our newest franchises fighting for survival. Bethlehem Cato went crashing through the goal in this game. It looked scary. The trainer came out, but nobody was permanently scarred. Before this game, the hot dog vendor outside the stadium was held at gunpoint, and his wieners were stolen. Jesus, rough times in America. At least he stole food. If you could call hot dogs food. Now, after this game, Vortex player Harmony Golan conducted a very religiously painted interview, but she's Jewish, which most people in America are not used to hearing. So there was about 45 Hashems in a 90-second sound clip. I understand. You've got your second win in 3 years. I have no clue why athletes see the need to thank a deity for every personal achievement, but alas, this is the world we live in. And in this world, Miami gets the 4 points, Vegas gets 2, and Portland, nothing again. Now, let's move on to the Saturday matinee game where Detroit is hosting Boston and Baltimore. Look at this. In this one, Boston wins. Boston 39, Detroit 26, Baltimore 16. Now, for Boston, Jeff Butts had 9 goals. For Detroit, Hussein Cohen had 8 goals. And for Baltimore, Corey Vignali had 6 blocks. Now, before this game, owner Maria Al-Saad had the team working in a soup kitchen for charity. Community outreach is good. Suspended Boston player Mike Blythe got involved in this one like every good Delta player does. As a result, he won't be seen on the court till week 7. And in the end of this one, Boston gets the 4 points. Detroit, 2 points. Baltimore, still looking for that first elusive win. Nothing. Now, let's move on to Washington, where the Power are hosting Atlanta and Dallas. And in this one, Washington keeps rolling. Washington 28, Atlanta 6, Dallas 2. Now, there was a power outage locally that delayed the start of this game. There was also a goal outage as Atlanta and Dallas combined for 8 goals total. Not a lot of offense or defense by anyone in this one, but there was some definite frustration by Dallas, which resulted in a yellow card for J.K. Barbosa and a black card for Kyle Mosley. Just put the effort into scoring instead of putting effort into digging your team an unescapable hole. Now, after this game, Washington rookie Claude Verstappen criticized his team, saying they should have run up the score a little more. Look at the score sheet. 3 goals. How about you score more goals, jackass? Maybe that's the attitude that prevented 8 other teams from taking him in this year's draft. Now, and in the end of this one, no doubt the Power picks up the 4 points. Atlanta gets 2 points in this one, and Dallas, nothing. Now, let's move on to Montreal, who's hosting Memphis and Philadelphia. And in this one, Montreal wins it. Montreal 31, Philadelphia 20, Memphis 5. Now, for Montreal, Ariel Duffin had 7 goals. For Philadelphia, Griffin Bricker had 6 goals. And Ariel Vignola had 6 blocks. Just a horrible night all round for Memphis. No comment. Now, some rough stuff in this game with Memphis player Shep Forsberg taking down Juke Buchanan with a dirty hit. That didn't sit well with Buchanan, who got up and shoved Forsberg. Then Forsberg punches Buchanan. In jumps Tommy Lee Chavez and Grant Nahn. Pretty messy, but in the end, Grant Nahn, Tommy Lee Chavez, Juke Buchanan, all getting yellow carded, and Shep Forsberg was shown the door for 7 days. Look out. There are Montreal fans who already are coming down hard on this team. Welcome to Quebec. Just be thankful you didn't start this season like last season, which saw the team go winless in its first 5 games. It just sucks when your team constantly folds like a cheap suitcase under the weight of expectations, and this year the expectations are higher than normal. And in the end, Montreal gets the 4 points, Philadelphia 2 points, Memphis nothing again. Now, let's move on to Toronto, who's hosting Chicago and New York. And in a rather low-scoring affair here, Chicago wins it. Chicago 22, New York 18, Toronto 8. For Chicago, LaQuisha Hershey had 5 goals, and Venus Pilar and Fab Whittlesey had 5 goals each. For New York, Rhino Montalban had 12 blocks. Toronto put on a pathetic display here with one of the lowest goal totals in the history of the franchise. Earlier in the day, the Toronto Towers were working in a food bank for charity. Perhaps they stole too many bread rolls because this team was flat as fuck. Embarrassing. Now, New York's Mikko Musselman busted his ulna in this one. He'll be gone 12 weeks. Venus Pilar was black-carded in this one when she lost her mind after getting a no call on a pretty cheap hit by Toronto player Barb White. To say she overreacted is a understatement. She put her hands on the ref, and that is a no-no, and she was ejected. However, she wasn't done, and she came back out onto the court, kicked him in the balls, and had to be restrained. It was ugly. And as a result, in this one, Chicago gets the 4 points. New York, 2 points. Toronto leaves with nothing. Now, let's now move on to Los Angeles, who's hosting Seattle and Denver. And in this one, Seattle gets some retribution. Seattle 81. Los Angeles 46. Denver 11. Holy smoke. For Seattle, Pooh McCarthy had 18 goals and Frank Viano had 11 goals. For Los Angeles, Chip Chiozzi had 12 goals and Ben Breitbart had 12 blocks. For Denver, Dub Serpinski had 7 blocks on a horrible night for Denver overall. Denver's Karen Klitschko suffered a hip flexor. She'll be out 2 weeks. And after this game, LA coach Marino Jankovic tossed the chair onto the court. He was pissed. I'd be pissed too if I scored 46 points and lost. This is going to cost him some money. Now, let's take a look at the standings. Up at the top, we got Phoenix, Chicago, and Washington with 8 points each. Miami with 7 points. Vancouver, Seattle, Detroit, and New York with 6 points. Montreal, Boston, Las Vegas, Atlanta, 4 points. Salt Lake City, 3 points. Los Angeles, Denver, Dallas, Toronto, Philadelphia, 2 points each. And Portland, Memphis, and Baltimore, still nothing. Now, let's take a look at the scoring leaders after week 2. We have at the top Marnie Johnstone, Seattle, 29 points. LaQuisha Hershey, Chicago, 25. Venus Pilar, Chicago, 24. Ivan Goss, Chicago, 22. Pooh McCarthy, Seattle, 21. Hussein Cohen, Detroit, 21. Elix Henderson, Washington, 17. Chip Chiozzi, 16. Amber Tagliabue and Giorgio Stokidis, Seattle, 15 points each. And Giacomo Trunk, Chicago, 14 points. The offensive player of the week is Pooh McCarthy from Seattle with 18 points. Now, let's move on to the block leaders after week 2. Up at the top, Frederick Giacalone from Dallas, 29 blocks. Wilt Davola, Detroit, 18 blocks. Then we have Jackson Truman, Ricardo Montalban, Rhino Montalban, 16 blocks each. Eli Ercolani, SLC. Like, this is the first time in forever I see a guy from SLC leading anything. SLC, 14 blocks. Ben Breitbart, LA, 13 blocks. Elliott Park, New York, 12 blocks. Dub Serpinski, Denver. Lo Ang, Dallas. Eamon Rude, Detroit, 11 blocks each. And Venus Pilar, Chicago, 10 blocks. Now, the defensive player of the week is Jackson Truman from Phoenix with 13 blocks. Now, let's move on to the league news. Tragic news coming off this Saturday as Portland assistant captain Alisander Harrus broke his neck when he was in a plane crash. Harrus is a private pilot. The plane he was flying crashed, and he received multiple injuries, including a broken neck. He did not survive the crash and died at the scene. Most people remember Harrus as the captain of the Salt Lake City Swarm before he was drafted to Portland. He will be missed. Just horrible. Now, word on the Venus Pilar incident that resulted in an official being struck in the testicles. She's going to pay for this one. And Darcy has been very strong in his repercussions for players who put their hands on our officials. She's gone for 15 games. After the game, Pilar insisted she heard the official call her a black bitch. The league is looking into this. Wow. Chicago is going to miss her contribution big time. Now, word out of Dallas is that the Lone Stars are getting new ownership. Owner Guy Levin is selling the team. Hold on. Don't panic yet. He's selling it to a local group headed by businessman Nelson Braga, who promises to keep the team in the city for the foreseeable future. Now, a bunch of LA fans have signed a petition and demand that the Fallen Angels go back to their Lakers colors. I'm absolutely certain these fans are on drugs, and this is not happening. Those jerseys look boss as fuck now. Neil Laskin is in big trouble for the anti-Semitic rant that he went on social media. Darcy, he smelled that shit at 2 parts per trillion. He's been suspended for 5 games. If he does it again, it's a 10-game suspension. But I have no clue what he's going to say to rookie teammate Randall Kurzweil. He's a Jew. This is going to get good. Now, LA Fallen Angels player Chip Chiozzi says he's going to be stepping away from Delta for the next month to be with his wife as she undergoes cancer treatment. He'll be gone for 5 weeks. God freaking speed. And the Angels are going to miss this guy. Now, Pooh McCarthy just arrived in Seattle this season and already somebody found his sex tape on the internet. This will not be the first Delta player who will become famous for reasons other than Delta. He says he has no idea how that got leaked and he doesn't even remember that girl. Now, Philadelphia player Griffin Bricker has told the team he wants to be traded. He simply doesn't like the neighborhood. Based on the price Philly paid for Bricker 2 years ago when he was acquired from New York in what almost everybody says is a ludicrous trade, the chance this guy is going to be dealt is a fat chance. An obesely fat chance. Now, Royals player Bondi Reed came out this week and said he's donating his salary to a children's charity. He also tried to convince other players that they should do so also. He's the second player this year to be so magnanimous. I guess no more coke and strippers? Now, let's move on to the mailbag. Matty V. This Baltimore team is absolute garbage. Perhaps the league should consider a promotion and relegation format like European football. This is never going to happen. Where we have a 15-team Division A and a 15-team Division B, and every year 3 teams go up and 3 go down. It simply won't work in North America, where the value of teams is determined by how competitive they are. Imagine finding out that your club is now not going to play for a championship for the foreseeable future because they have to spend the entire year clawing their way out of a Division B abyss. Unless the league really wants to change its entire financial structure, this ain't happening. Now, real Piero Barone, I told you many times about how overrated the Towers are. Last week they showed themselves to be total garbage. Montreal doesn't look good either. I think I'm going to bet some serious money on both of them missing the playoffs. You know, looking at this right now, you appear to be totally correct. But we have a 21-week season here. You forget that for Toronto and Montreal to be out, 2 other teams have to play themselves into that position. I don't think teams like LA or Boston are good enough. I really don't. And based on the point system, with 6 points being given out for every game, it's hard to catch up once you fall behind. And it can be done, though. A few teams have done it. But I think Toronto is going to recover from this slow start. They're too good not to. Now, on to our Week 3 games and predictions. On to Monday, where Chicago is going to be hosting Toronto and Atlanta, and last week Toronto really shit the bed. In fact, they still don't have a win. In Week 1, Chicago whipped out the thermonuclear warhead and sent Seattle reeling. I say Toronto have a bounce-back game here and get on the winning track. Atlanta, who am I kidding? They're losing. Now, on to Wednesday, where Salt Lake City is hosting Las Vegas and Boston. And this is a clash between 3 teams predicted to be near or at the bottom of the ladder. The Swarm were good Week 1. Boston were great last week. This week, I'm taking Vegas to win a shocker here. Now, let's move on to the Saturday matinee game, where Dallas is hosting LA and Baltimore. And this is a big chance for LA to get some easy points with 2 inferior opponents. Last week, LA scored 46 and finished second. The feeling is they won't need 46 in order to beat 2 teams that rarely score 10. Now, let's move on to Miami, who's hosting Montreal and Washington. And Montreal started the year out in mediocre fashion. Then last week, they rebounded with a strong win. I mean, Miami got their second win in 2 years this week. But Washington has looked strong throughout. The betting man in me says to ride a hot streak until it ends. And then ride the car crash until it stops. I'm taking the power for 4. Now, let's move on to New York versus Portland and Phoenix. And this will be the game for New York to prove themselves among the upper echelon of the league. And it's a chance for Phoenix to prove that they belong in the top tier. So far this year, Phoenix has impressed. I'm going with Phoenix to stay white hot here and stay undefeated. Now, let's move on to Detroit. Detroit, where Detroit's going to be hosting Vancouver and Denver. And this has not been a very good start for the defending champs. I mean, this week, they don't get a pair of veritable soup cans either. They draw Detroit and Vancouver, 2 teams that are going to be battling each other for a playoff spot. I think the Bear will wake up this week, and they're gonna maul these 2 teams. Full stop. Now, let's move on to the last game here, where Seattle is hosting Memphis and Philly. And Memphis has been horrible. Philadelphia has not looked good. And last week, Seattle scored 81 points. The freight train keeps rolling, and Seattle collects the 4 points. I'm Mike AD, and this has been the Delta League Podcast. Join us next week, where hopefully things will be better. Rest in peace, Alisander Harrus.